Not the Footy Show.
Forward sizzle.
Mm-hmm.
Para.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just get started, shall we? I'm sure there's plenty to talk about. G'day everybody, welcome to episode 285 of Not the Footy Show. You've got Warrick, Nicolson, you've got Robb, Cox, and we've got the multi-million-dollar man, Mitchell Moses, delivering straight away on the investment by Parramatta. We've just come out of Parramatta 17, Penrith 16. We've one of the all-time great square-ups in extra time. Coxsmith, Parramatta on the board, Moses is the hero. What more needs to be said, really?
Not much, mate. I think he did pretty well tonight, to be honest. Finally, this year stood up, probably better than he has in any other game, and they got the win. And I dare say it, and it hurts me a little bit to say it, but I think they probably deserved the win tonight. They were a better team all night. Nathan Cleary nearly dragged Penrith across the line and got him a victory. I think he's clearly the better halfback of the two of them. But Parramatta's team played better tonight than Penrith did. Penrith are lacking something, mate, and I've got my suspicions, so maybe we can have a quick yak about that if you want to talk about it.
I think we should. Let's start with the fact that Mitch Moses, according to all reports, has signed a 5-year deal with Parramatta that will take him through to the end of 2028. The number is anywhere between $1.2 and $1.3 million a season. I've got to give credit to a guy from one of the WhatsApp groups at 21:44, so 9:44. Nathan Cleary takes the game to extra time with that incredible 2-point field goal, and he sends a message. He goes, "Mitch Moses gets paid more than Nathan Cleary. Full stop. That's funny." Pretty good comment, in the grand scheme of things. Unfortunately, this bloke, and I got to say this, has a tendency of he'll say something and the exact opposite will happen. He has one of the greatest jinxes, mocks, whatever you want to call it, abilities of anybody that I've ever met in my entire life. And not 5 minutes later, we get the square up of the century with Mitch Kenny getting sent to the sin bin, and Mitchell Moses goes down the field. And hey, apparently he is worth $1.3 million because he just won a round 4 game and gets Parramatta off the schneid and to a victory. You mentioned the bit about Parramatta being the better team. I completely agree. I tried my best to hold them in their tracks. I sent out a message saying I think there was about 3 minutes or 4 minutes left in the game, 21-10. This is going to be a great win by Para. I'm not trying to jinx. Credit where it's due. They've been tremendous. And then we saw the end of the game. The thing about Para that impressed me was they just refused to do anything but stick to the game plan that Brad Arthur had put out there for him. It was complete, no surprise there, but it was kick to Taruva, and make him come at them from Penrith's left edge. And there was a really great point that I saw in one of my chats. Lukey Palmer put it together, and he basically said, the back five for Penrith do all the work, but they do so much work coming out of their own end, they never attack. Because you go through Taruva, then you go Edwards, and then you go Tungo, then you go To'o, then you go Edwards, then you got to kick it. And there's a play with 5 minutes left in the game before the thing turned on the Paulo, even after I think it was after the Oskin try, just beforehand. But they did 4 hit-ups from their back guys, and then the only attacking play they did in the whole set was Isaiah Leoto with a short ball. And you and I'll get you to weigh in now, but this is an issue for Penrith. It's worked for a number of years, this heavy reliance on their back guys coming out of trouble, but they were down by 8 points. They needed to play a little bit of footy. Yes, they got a great try from Hosking, but they left it very late, Coxsmith. Is this a problem with the way they play?
Well, no, it's a problem. What happens with Penrith is when they get on the back foot, and Parramatta had pretty much the perfect blueprint tonight to beat them, which is they know that Penrith's big forwards aren't going to get back to the 10-metre line or the 20-metre line. and make hit-ups. Because they've just defended pretty much through the middle. And Parramatta don't really take it to the edges too much either, or didn't tonight. So they wear the forwards out in the middle and they wear the backs out off the back of a kick. And poor old Nathan and Luai haven't really got too many soldiers that are wanting to march forward, not from that position anyway. So, it's the blueprint to beat them, but there are ways around that, and it's a little bit of a personnel thing, like Taylor May last year, love him or loathe him, was one of their biggest meter eaters. Taruva isn't Taylor May.
Well, this is where stats are gonna laugh in your face, Coxsmith. I'm not trying to be rude here, but he
got the ball every time though. So
he made 312 meters from 26 carries.
Yeah, but Taylor May, Taylor May's a bigger difference maker than Taruva.
And I did think just quickly about Taruva. He does. I know that there was a penalty given for a high shot. I think it was.
Was it
Makatoa. No, it was in the lead up to the Hosking try.
Yeah,
but Taruva backs his body into the defence when he hits the ball up, and so I'm not saying you can't hit him high, but it's going to happen more often than not in the way that he turns his body as he makes contact. And that was a lazy one from Makatoa. Got him back up the field. Hosking, who was a revelation for Penrith tonight, I've been waiting for him to get into first grade. And Lukey Garner, I think he went off with a HIA, possibly already got yanked, one of the two. Enjoy New South Wales Cup, son, because you're about to miss out on first grade, and they're going to put Liam Martin in pretty quick smart once he's back from an injury, I think.
I think poor old Luke Garner left with a broken heart, mate, because once Zach Hosking played, into the second half, it was like, I can see the future. I can look at the crystal ball and see the future.
That set that he scored the try, which was a great line off Cleary, but he ran the same line off Edwards, who went down a short side, and he got belted. I think it was in the same set, but he got back up, put himself in the position where he could have got belted again. And there was a run early in the game that 5 minutes in the game that he ran that he was going to get belted, and he squeezed through two defenders. But he proved he's not going to hang back and wait for things to happen. And that's what Penrith need when you've lost a kick out. I'm not saying he's kick out, but you need someone who's not going to shy away from that contact. And I think Luke Garner's shown us enough in the first few weeks to stay in that rotation.
I just think Luke Garner, I don't think he's a big enough body to be playing on the edge there after they're used to kick out.
Yeah.
Sorensen plays in the middle when he comes on. So, and so does Leniu. So, those guys probably don't really want to run out wide. So Zach Hosking will be a good. We'll see how he goes. But
one game.
He did really well tonight.
And he showed us a bit when he played for Brisbane last year that he's not afraid of the hard work. He made 55 tackles, 2 ineffective for the game. That's not a bad effort when you're basically your job is to defend Nathan Cleary. So he did the job. Look, the Eels, we'll just focus on them quickly. For the bulk of the podcast, but it's just I'm not trying to rain on the parade. I don't know if you beat Penrith in a game in September that way, as much as I enjoyed it. I just don't think Penrith are on that role that they were on. The bye last week was probably a good thing from a resting point of view, but they haven't played great footy yet this year, Penrith, and that game plan tonight did them. Do you reckon it can work in September?
No, I don't, for a couple of reasons. There's something that Penrith haven't done yet this year that we saw them do last year a few times. They have the ability, we haven't seen it yet in 23, but they have the ability to attack with their defence. They can really turn their defence up to its red hot. And they didn't do that to Parramatta tonight, not for any sustained effort. They might have done it for 1 tackle or 2 tackles, but they've got the ability to do it for a whole set or 2 sets or 3 sets until the team makes a mistake.
Yep.
Or they get the
ball back.
Parramatta
didn't do tonight. Parramatta didn't make mistakes tonight. They just according to NRL,
Penrith
3 mistakes tonight.
But Penrith didn't pressure them with that defence that they have had in the past. So when Penrith get back to that and hit their stride, I think you'll find teams starting to make mistakes from that. So they won't get into that arm wrestle where they get to drop the ball onto that 10-metre box and you're battling all night to get out of there.
Still not much
well,
on the bench for Para, unfortunately, but I didn't mind what I saw from William McGregor. He was all right. Makatoa was okay. But that young Hands, who's a half that came to Parramatta last year and started playing hooker, mate, they looked a much better team with him being able to come on there and take over for Hodgson, who it's just not working. It's just not working.
Oh, look, I didn't mind. I don't think Hodgson's been bad this year, but he's not an 80-minute hooker.
No.
And they need someone to come and play 30 minutes for him to get the best out of him, you know. But terrible luck for Sonny Luke tonight for Penrith. You know, I think he played for about 4 minutes.
And he also copped a knock in his last game as well, Coxsmith. That's 2 in a row. I know they had the bye in between, but not looking good for him. Bryce Cartwright, is he back?
I was going to say,
party back?
I
think it is. Different footballer than what we saw back when he was making all those things happen with Parramatta, with Penrith. But he's done a really good job. He's actually, I'd argue, he's been in their top 3 forwards for the year.
We'll see when Sean Lane comes back what they think of him, mate. That'll be the thing. I mean, maybe he'll just play on the bench for the rest of the year. You know, and he'd probably be good at that because he can play centre 5'8" or back row. So to have a coverage there would be a good thing. But what were your thoughts on the Mitch Kenny tackle in extra time?
Should we start with Joseph with Junior Paulo's one for a start to just establish
why we're
we're
so? It was a dead set. It's a dead set sin bin. I mean,
it's a sin bin, that one. He left his feet. Hoskins standing there. He's not falling, and he comes across and belts him. That's a sin bin. That's what it is, and it was unfortunate for Parra because Penrith didn't deserve a chance to go up the field at that stage, but they got one. Cleary goes and kicks the field goal. Then you get to that.
By the way, sorry, before you go any further, I think the only reason they did that was because Parramatta dropped their challenge in. If they hadn't a challenge, I don't think they were going to go back and look at that. It was just a penalty carry on. But because they challenged, I think it slowed everything down because that's what Parramatta wanted. They wanted to slow it down a bit and get the breath. And then the bunker had a good look at it and tipped him.
That said, Mitch Kenny on Wanga Blake, I've seen some great square ups in the past. This is up there in the top 5.
He was falling.
It's you know, anyone who listens to the show for any length of time, no, I don't like guys getting hit in the head. Don't like it. You're responsible for it. Hit the guy in the head. That's fine. But if you can honestly look me in the eye and tell me that there's any way known that in any other situation of a rugby league game that Ashley Klein decides to listen to the bunker or have his own opinion, which he seemed to have, he had the freedom. He had the freedom. He had the freedom to make that call then. Every other moment in rugby league, he has no freedom to make that call. He will go, it's just incidental contact. You know, they're moving fast, and he's collected him in the head, and that's just the way it is. Kenny wasn't rising. That's the reason he gave. He goes, you're rising it. Please. It's one of the worst calls you'll ever see, and the only reason it happened is because he'd already penalised one team for a high tackle, and he got a chance to do the same thing for the other and square it up. And
squared it up so that no one could scream at him for sin binning another player.
Yeah, I don't think even Gutherson complained about the Paulo sin bin, and that's saying something because he complained about everything else he got tonight.
Look, I'm just glad that the Kenny sin bin, the penalty came into play, but the sin bin, it didn't matter. It was 12 on 12,
and it was off that set.
But if there's no penalty there, that could have been very different. But they got it, and like I say, Parramatta deserved it.
Correct.
I think they deserved to win tonight.
Just wish that as you say, that decision, it doesn't. If there's still 13 on for Penrith, I don't think they stop the field goal. Is the best way I can describe it. I don't think that had that. It's just one of those decisions that you go, I can't sit there and say that.
No, that's so close, mate.
I can't sit there and say that Klein's ever going to make that call again on that kind of tackle. The bunker's not going to make that call. He's not going to make that tackle. It's just not going to happen. And it's just bewildering. It's not bewildering. That's the worst part. That's the worst part. We use that word in the conversation we had today.
I knew it was coming. I said to Nate, my son, sitting next to me on the couch, I said to him, he's going to bin him here. You watch. 100% will bin him.
Just, what are you doing, NRL? Honestly. Just, anyway. Parramatta get off the mark. That's their first win of the year. Can I just double check? What's Penrith's record for the year, buddy?
2-2.
It's 1-2. They got a bye in that.
Well, it's 1-2. They got a bye. Yeah.
Wow.
They'll be running it probably after this round. I think they'll be running about 9th or 10th.
They've dropped. Well, they don't drop to 5th, I guess, but they're in. Parramatta have moved all the way to 13th. Hold on, they've got the Roosters next week. Penrith have Canberra next week, so good luck, Canberra. That one. Just on Penrith, good signs from Nathan Cleary. Really busy tonight. His kicking game was pretty good. As you say, the forwards, and you look at the stats of the forwards for Panthers, and they're like there's 2 players that had double-digit runs for Penrith. That's not going to make.
They
missed. Not get it.
They missed Liam Martin tonight, mate.
Yeah, they did, and you're going to lose Sonny Luke next week. So Mitch Kenny gets moved into 80. I think you mentioned in the preseason there's a kid called Summerton they might be able to bring up, and we'll see whether they do that.
I hope they do. Yeah,
a couple of players that deserve focus, and look, they're great players, but they also carry on. Stephen Crichton, apart from a couple of tackles that may have given away penalties, didn't notice him do anything tonight. And what's going on with Jerome Luai? Because that was an interesting performance from him. He was busy, but gee, he was ineffective tonight.
Yeah. Look, again, that kind of game doesn't suit Luai, where they're just grinding out of their end.
But isn't that Origin?
What can you do? Not to that extent.
But you know what I mean? Like that's I want to see more from him in those games. Like I've seen him when they're flowing, and that's great. I just want to see like he needed to offer something more. I think all he did tonight was run. And I know their argument is always, halves have got to run more. To me, and you touched on it, they didn't use their edges at all well tonight, Penrith. At all. And
no, I think part of that problem was, mate, is that what it looks like to me, and I could be completely off the mark, but it looks to me like they've lost a little bit of, there was no Liam Martin and no Kikau, right? So they've definitely lost some impact on the edges. And maybe they've lost a bit of confidence going to the edges because they seem, especially with Garner, no disrespect to Luke Garner, but they were big shoes. They were always going to be big shoes to fill on Kikau's part. And it just looks like that Penrith style of play where they really kind of wind up the back line and then get Kikau to inject himself through the back line. It's not suiting Garner because he doesn't have the size and strength to hit holes like Kikau could, but they're still playing that same kind of,
and attract.
So he kind of becomes
defense.
Ineffective.
Attract, he can't on the decoys. Yeah.
If you watch Parramatta tonight, just on their right edge on their right side defense or covering Penrith's left attack, they just numbered up. They're not trying to double up for that back row that might get the ball, and that's what creates your gaps when you get players second guessing the guy inside or outside of them and going, I'm going to number up here or double up here because he's about to get the ball and then we need 2 to tackle him. With Garner, it's a one-on-one. I mean, I think I might have saw Mitchell Moses take care of Garner tonight at one stage.
He made 3 runs, so it didn't happen often. 95% completion for Parramatta at 41 from 43, 87 for Penrith, 36 from 41. I'm not a huge lover of those kind of stats, but it definitely. And I think this also goes back to where we were saying they weren't using their edges very well, Penrith. But, Moses kicked him into a corner and the defence backed him up. The kick chase backed him up and really well done for Parramatta. So they get off the mark with a win. Penrith have lost 2 of their first 3 games. There's some other games happening in round number 4. The big one is tomorrow night. It's Tigers versus... No, it's not Tigers versus Storm. Although Timmy Sheen's genius. He's just punted the Ken Maumalo contract after the Titans. What are the Titans doing?
Well played, Tim. That's about the best thing he's done since he's been back. But he must have a thing for wingers because he's dropped Nofaluma. He raked him. He hooked him last week.
Yeah.
He's dropped him, and now he's got rid of Maumalo. Is he starting to clean the ranks out? Do you think?
I think we had this discussion. Everybody missed a podcast earlier today. Coxsmith rang me up, and we started, just yapping about nothing, and then before we knew it was 40 minutes
Spitballing
of rugby league talk, and I'm just going, there goes a podcast. But anyway, that's the way it goes. And, you know, they had to lose a few games for Tim to be able to start sweeping out the garbage, so to speak. So often Gowie misses out. Nofaluma misses out. I'm going hard. And he's punted Maumalo before he's played a game this year. It's bold, and I guess when you lose 3 in a row to start the year, you can do whatever you like if your mandate is to change the club. So the other game,
I think Sheens is a bit like a bit of a used car salesman getting rid of Maumalo. I mean, who bought him again?
The Titans, who have got actually a bunch of good outside backs. They've got good young outside backs.
He's used the Jedi mind trick, mate.
And they've signed him. And what I found interesting, I sent it to you, but Tim Sheen's message about Maumalo leaving the club, not one mention about his playing ability. It was all about how good a bloke he was. And I'm like,
good bloke, top bloke.
Bloke, making too much money. See you later. Dolphins, Broncos, the Battle of Brisbane. Uncle Benny's just dominated the headlines by saying nothing. What a genius.
Nothing. Yeah. No comment.
What? In short, do you give the Dolphins much hope tomorrow night? Or tonight, as people listen to it?
No, I don't, mate. I think the Bronx will beat them by 2 or 3 tries.
Okay. I don't know. Could the Dolphins really start 4-0?
Milford scares me.
He's coming in, never know.
Yeah, you never know what you're going to get with him, and not having their big enforcer Kafusi there. You know, he's their number one hitman. You know.
Well, the hitman finally got his comeuppance, didn't he, this week?
He definitely paid for indiscretions of the past.
Yeah, the ones that he's skated on for sure.
You know. We discussed this today, so nobody heard it. But in my opinion, I don't think he deserved 4 weeks for that hit. But I do think that they've loaded him up for other stuff that he's gotten away with in the past.
Yeah. And the same thing happened to Jerome Hughes, who foolishly challenged a blatant shoulder charge and gets 2 weeks. So it's hurt the Storm and it's hurt the Dolphins. There was another bit of news that came during the week, Coxsmith, that you did want to touch on. Anthony Griffin. Not so safe. He won that first game and didn't get a 2-year contract. So in the space of a week now, he's got to reapply for his job next year. What's going on?
Well, very surprising for me, mate, because Saints usually re-sign coaches in the first or second round. Or, I remember there was a while there for a little while we'd be leading the competition after 10 rounds and then end up out of the top 8 usually. Yeah, look, I think they've just had enough. But, I was talking to another mate of mine today just before you, and I'm always, and I said this to you as well, I'm always just bewildered. This is when I use this word, bewildered. I'm bewildered with Saints because it looks like they're letting Hook down gently, asking him to reapply, which means they don't want him.
Exactly right.
So they're looking for a new coach. Now, the first time that I heard this, I had to get hold of my Fox remote and wind it back and listen again because they said that the likely replacements are.
Yes.
Now let's not forget, we had the water boy Steve Price, who
the answer after Wayne Bennett.
He was the answer after Wayne Bennett. He got shafted. Bye bye. Then we had Mary McGregor.
Yeah. Who lasted way longer than we thought he would.
He kept lasting. They just. And then they've got Hook.
Like the never-ending Tim Tams, wasn't he, old McGregor?
Absolutely. And so you'd think by now the only bit of success that St George have had since, what was it, 1980, 1970-something? In 2010 was 79. In 2010 was when they brought a fair income coach on board. Right? Other than that, not a whole lot of success. Not a lot doing.
Who have they put forward in the media for the 3 most likely?
So now the 3 most likely contenders to take St George back to their former glory of 2010 and 1979 are Ben Hornby, who played in that 2010 grand final, by the way, Dean Young, who I believe also did, and Jason Riles. 3 former players that have never coached a game of first grade in their lives, except for Dean Young when he was an interim coach because Mary McGregor was sacked quite early. Now, these blokes don't have runs on the board. I know that they're saying that Riles is kind of like the next Fitzgibbon. He's a likely candidate. He's been in the Melbourne system, in the Rooster system.
Blah, 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 blah. Yep.
And you brought that up today, playing devil's advocate, and I said, yeah, but what about Adam O'Brien? He was in both their systems as well. Why can't St George just go out and get a coach? Just go and sign Hasler or sign Jeff Tuvey or sign Flano. What?
Bring back Flano 6 months after you funded him.
Well, why not?
Managing your list.
Why not? Bring him back. Pay him what he needs to be paid. Get him back as head coach.
Give him a bunch of email addresses so that he can send them from different ones.
They are reluctant to engage a fair income coach.
Mm.
And you know what? They always say this, don't they, about the sign of stupidity or whatever it is it doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting things to change.
Well, you know what the worst
if they
thing.
hire,
Yep. No, yeah.
I was going to say, if they hire Dean Young or Ben Hornby, the same thing's going to happen that happened with McGregor. He won't be a complete coach. There'll be a guys trying things, and no disrespect to those guys, to be honest. They're probably great guys, and good luck to them if they do get the gig, because they're going to need it. I just don't know why St George, one of the most famous brands in the NRL, keep doing this. It's ridiculous, mate. Thoughts?
I worry for you to avoid ending up with a Hornby, a Young, or a Riles, is because right now, who are the flavour of the month? You got Canterbury with their brand new fresh coach. They've won like 2 games. And you've got the Warriors also with 2 wins with a fresh new coach. So all of a sudden, this fresh new coach, the fresh new Carsmell, we've got to try that. We've got to bring who's the next best one coming through. And yet you've rewind a year and all the first year coaches are barely holding their jobs from 2021 or whatever, with like Holbrook and O'Brien. And that's just the way that the game, you get captured in this moment. And look, we did agree, though, that we understand why the Dragons have basically said, Hook, reapply. But the conclusion that we came to was, how did it take them this long to realise that's what they had to do? You've seen nothing in the last 2 and a bit years from Griffin that says he's taken our club back to great things. And that's just the facts. So them
talking about them even talking about a coach for next year means that they've already resigned and blowing this year out the door. They're 23. We're 3 rounds in. This is the 4th round.
So I saw a tweet today from the Dragons, and it's one of those ones where the media manager gives his phone to the star player, in this case Ben Hunt, and he speaks into the camera and he goes, "Oh guys, we've got a big game against the against the Sharks on Sunday night. We're going to pack out Cogra Jubilee." He named all the sponsors and the whole club in the process, but he goes, "You got to really want you there to behind us," and yet like they've already broken news 24 hours earlier. We're looking for a new coach next year. Like, manage your club. That's poor old Benny Hunt's just lamb to slaughter there. Because, of course, the messages in the response are going to be, well, we don't even know who's going to coach the team now, mate. You want us to go and watch you for the next 26 rounds?
My thoughts are whoever they're going to get, just suck it up, guys. Pay Hook now. See you later, mate. There's your this year's pay, and get that bloke in now. Now, Riles has already said he won't go this year unless he gets clearance from the Roosters.
Yep.
But if St George says to him, well, it's either now or never, you choose, he might be inclined to take it. I don't know. But of the 3 players they've named, I probably would prefer Riles from reputation.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I'd prefer a fair income coach that's been there and done it before, and maybe
if you had to choose
premierships.
Let's wrap this up with a question. If you had to choose between Jeff Tuvey or Des Hasler, who are you taking?
Hasler.
Well,
Des Hasler a lot.
And
you know what? And that's probably why he hasn't got a gig. But if it comes down between Jeff Tuvey and the other 3, I'll take Jeff Tuvey.
Yep. Fair enough, mate.
So, anyway.
Lastly, hope you've enjoyed the recap of Parramatta's 17-16 win over Penrith. There you go. I almost read the script from the NRL there that Penrith should have won. We've talked about Griffin going. We'll talk about the Battle of Brisbane tomorrow night. But just wanted to end on the somber note, or rather the celebratory note. John Sattler passed away during the week, mate. And he has very much a legendary status in the game because of what he did in the grand final, playing with the busted jaw for 78 minutes and whatever it was. And the story is he goes back into the change room at halftime and tried to push his jaw back into place. And I don't know if I sent it to you, but Danny Levi posted his X-ray scan of his face, and his jaw is now jaws. There are 3 of them. The poor bloke. And for him to play that whole game with a busted jaw is just phenomenal. But what Souths have done really well in the last couple of days is they've gone back to the grand final 2014 and found a whole bunch of vision of Sattler in the wake of the grand final, during grand final week, singing the team song. And I think it's been a really good way of celebrating his career as a footballer. And what they're doing on the weekend is there's going to be, in the 13th minute, there's going to be a round of applause as opposed to a minute's silence. When the 13th minute rolls around in the Rabbitohs Manly game, the fans are going to just start clapping, and that's going to be the way that they, I guess, honour Johnny Sattler. I guess anything that comes from all of this that I'd just like to encourage clubs is celebrate your past as much as you can when those legends are still around. Because I think those moments and the feeling, and I'm sure Scott Sattler and the family are feeling a great deal of appreciation for what's going on. But, especially when it's doable, get your old boys along more than just once a year. Not all of them, but you can, your real legends, they should be in amongst the players a little bit more if you can. We're now out of the COVID bubble situation like we were in for a period there, and we lost a few absolute greats through that time, if you remember Coxsmith. And I don't know, it's just something that occurred to me is that, we can celebrate the greats while they're alive as well. And
I agree. I agree with you totally, mate. And I think it's a nice touch, though, what Souths are doing with their logo this week is running the half a logo. I believe Sattler's logo was ripped off half of it was ripped off in that grand final where he broke his jaw. So I think all the players this week will have half a rabbit on their chest, which is a nice touch. But I agree with you. I think that clubs should do more, a little bit more to pay tribute while the legends are still around to get to see it. Things like retiring jerseys for a week and things like that is great. But having them at the game, getting them on the big screen and getting them into the dressing room and things like that, I think is probably the step that they need to go to. And I think it's great for the ex-players. I think it's they feel like they're included. And,
yeah, exactly right.
Hopefully they do start doing things like that.
Indeed. Well, that's been episode 285 of Not the Footy Show. That's been Rob Cox. I've been Warrick Nicolson. The multi-million-dollar man, Mitchell Moses, mate. He made us look a bit silly tonight, didn't he?
He did, mate. He did. I'll tell you what, I told you this today. Gordon Tallis brought something up pretty, I thought, fitting the other night on NRL 360, where they were talking about Mitchell's new contract, $1.3 million, and Tallis said, "Look, I don't like it. I don't like the fact that he's getting 1.3, and it's not because I'm jealous of his money, but that's a winner's check. That's a winner's check, and he hasn't won anything, and some would argue that might be right. He hasn't won he won a game tonight, but he hasn't won
round 4
grand final.
He run round 4. Come on.
He hasn't won a grand final. He hasn't won an Origin series. I mean, he was in a team that had basically already won it. But good luck to Mitchell. I hope he makes this. I like this with all players. I hope they make as much as they can and they can run off into the sunset and enjoy their lives afterwards, because they probably deserve as much as they can get. But it is a little bit, you think to yourself, well, yeah, they got pretty much pumped last year in that grand final. They won tonight, so we'll see how they go this year.
Made just a bit of a irony in the old Tallis comment. I wonder if he would have thought that when he signed from Saints to go to Brisbane when he hadn't won anything, whether he deserved his money then.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll tell you one thing I don't mind about Gordon, though. He was more than prepared to sit down for a year and make nothing while that whole contract drama back in, what was it, 90
96. 96 is the year he sat out. They made the grand final that year, St George, when he should have played for him. Interesting. That's the episode. Congratulations, Para fans. I did my best to mock you. Couldn't do it. Or jinx you, whichever one you want to do. But you've got ahead. And we'll speak to you guys hopefully later in the weekend, probably Sunday night, as we wrap up round 4.
Absolutely.
Love to hear from you if you've got any comments. And Coxsmith, take us out.
All right, buddy. I'll catch you on Sunday. Pepsi.
Not the Footy show.
We are one different.
Yep. What do you got?
Canberra aren't making the finals this year.
Oh, stop it. I'm hanging up. I got to go, mate. The bars are calling me. The honky tonks are playing my tune. What are you talking about?
Not the Footy show.
You been sleeping over there?
Pepsi.